Hey, how you doing? Today, I stopped and got this bacon cheeseburger from Burger King. And a couple of fries and my lemonade. It's pink lemonade, but it might have a little extra flavor, but still lemonade. Yeah. I was thinking today about back when I was in the Navy, floating around the Indian Ocean, and how hot it used to be. It was very hot. It wasn't uncommon back then. It would hit 105, 110, pretty regularly during the day. That lemonade's not bad. Tough to go wrong with bacon on a cheeseburger. That always adds something to it. So, in the Indian Ocean there, floating around at the equator, there was this thing we always called like the uniform of the day. So, at the beginning of the day, the officers would decide, okay, what's the uniform of the day going to be? And then normally, we had those jeans. They were dungarees, we called them, like bell-bottom jeans. And of course, we'd wear a t-shirt and a blue work shirt. But a lot of times the captain would modify that so the uniform of the day, just for work, would be we didn't have to wear those blue shirts on top of the t-shirt. So it'd just be the jeans and a t-shirt. Because it was that hot. So I remember a lot of the days when we didn't have a heavy workload, we would decide, well, what are you going to do floating around the equator in the Indian Ocean with it being this hot? So we thought, well, one thing we can do is get a hell of a good suntan. All of our radar spaces were above the island. The the piece of the carrier that sticks up in the center of the ship is called the island. And these radar antennas were up on towers and catwalks and stuff up above the island. So the only people who were ever up there was us radar techs. Nobody else was allowed to be up there because they had no reason to be up there, first of all. So we decided, okay, during this cruise in particular, at least we're going to go back to port with a nice tan, because that was a big thing back, in that time frame. Well, we didn't have anything like Hawaiian Tropic or any kind of suntan lotion or anything. No stuff with SPF 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever it's up to today. But since in the one radar space, in the mornings a lot of time, instead of going down to the chow hall, we would make pancakes. So me and a couple of buddies of mine would get together in the mornings and cook up some pancakes. So one thing we did have was cooking oil. And we decided, well, that'll work for tanning. At least it's some kind of oil, and it's, in theory, maybe helping to moisturize your skin. That's what the going thought was, anyway. So we used to call it the steel beach, because everything, of course, was steel. And way up where the radar equipment was, there were like planks and catwalks and stuff that were just rungs of steel. And, we're talking about like probably 75 or 80 feet above the flight deck. So we would just go and put on our cutoff shorts, climb up to the top of the radar spaces where the antennas and stuff were, and hit the steel beach there. We'd take a cassette tape player with us, and sit it there on the steel deck. Use cooking oil for suntan lotion, and lay there in the sun and bake. So we spent quite a few days doing that before we got back to port. And I must say, we were dark. We definitely succeeded in getting a dark tan. But it was definitely hot there. And normally, with a severe lack of air conditioning, 80% of the time, the air conditioners didn't work. Especially like in our berthing area, which is the place where all the bunks were. The big room we had with 120 bunks or whatever it was, crammed into one little room. Seemed like they could never get the AC working right. It was that hot though. Sometimes you'd have trouble sleeping even. So what I would do is a lot of times, because my radar equipment rooms were air conditioned to keep the equipment cool, I would just go up there to one of my radar spaces and sleep there. I had some like that foam packing material that I used to keep a roll or two of, and I would just roll that packing material out on the deck and sleep there because at least it was nice and cool. I remember one of the cruises. We were out there floating around the Indian Ocean, and someone a lot higher up decided we needed to get to the Med in a bit of a hurry. So the fastest way to the Med from the Indian Ocean is through the Suez. Well, it's not like the officers would always inform everybody of what was going on because, you know, everybody pretty much did their job day after day, and the communication loop wasn't so great from the captain and the higher officers on the ship to the enlisted guys. So one morning I got up out of my bunk and got ready, and I went up to Radar 1, up through the center of the island that I was just talking about. There's ladders through the whole island. So I go up to Radar 1, get a cup of coffee, and one of the guys says to me, "You're not going to believe this. Have you been outside yet?" And I went, "No, because I came straight up through the center of the island." He goes, "Wait till you see this." So I thought, okay. I got my coffee and I walk out onto the catwalk from where Radar 1 was, which is like maybe 30 or 40 feet up in the island above the flight deck. And, when you're at sea, you can look out to the horizon and all you see is water everywhere around the ship. But this particular day, there was no water. It was just sand. And that was a hell of a shock, because you don't see sand when you look off the side of the ship and you can see the flight deck. Now, a carrier's built like this. The flight deck is up here, and the steel goes inward from the flight deck. So when you would look off of the edge of the flight deck, from up at the radar spaces, you would see water everywhere, for as far as you could see. Straight up to the edge of the flight deck was sand. That's all you could see was sand. And it's a bit of alarming, going, why are we in sand? And I stood there thinking, did the captain beach the carrier? What's going on here? And I look at the sand out there, and I can see like some camels and stuff out there, and we're moving. So I can tell that we're moving because I can see the surrounding things going by. And now I'm thinking, that's impossible. We're moving through sand. So my mind can't believe that. So I think, there's got to be water on the other side of the ship. So I travel around the catwalks to the other side of the island, and I look, sand the whole way to the edge of the flight deck. No water. It's all sand. And it made it look, from that perspective, like we're moving through the sand. A little bit like that Pirates of the Caribbean movie where Jack Sparrow was trying to pull his ship through the sand. There was nothing but sand. Everywhere that I looked, there was sand. So I'm going, okay, that's why they said, you got to see this. So I go back into Radar 1. And by this point, like our chief and stuff was up there, and the word had gotten out, yeah, okay, we're going through the Suez Canal. Well, that was the first time we'd ever seen that. It was very interesting. But to see sand everywhere you look from on a carrier, and it's moving, the Suez Canal isn't very big compared to a carrier. And it was just astonishing to see, because it looked like you're floating through the sand, whereas normally you're seeing water everywhere around the carrier. Quite the interesting sight. But that's it for that meal. Take care of yourself. Till next time, I'll see you later.